I have been using that music for a long time. I don't know if I should keep using that music or not. What do you think? We are a show here about what you think as owner-operators, and I know that's a trivial question. Hello, everybody. Happy Saturday afternoon for you. It's 11 o'clock Eastern Time. I'm Indiana Jack. And this is a show about you guys writing in your questions and me answering them from a real trucking recruiter. And that's what I am. For many years, I did trucking videos when I was a truck driver and showed you what it was like out there on the road. But now we've come into the office and I answer your questions and also have a theme about a particular show. And this morning's theme, or this afternoon, depending on where you are in this country, today's show is about what do recruiters look for when they look at your applications as an owner-operator. And we'll go into those details on the application that you fill out for us if you want to come to a certain carrier. It's what we want to look at and what we're interested in. What will we maybe turn you down for? Or most of all, what we want to hire you for. So welcome. Appreciate you here. Appreciate you watching as always. This is show number 4. Yes, we are a truckling show here on YouTube. Let's get right into questions because I want to answer your questions as a recruiter. And Mint Chip writes, my favorite ice cream, by the way, Mint Chip. Very good. I don't know if that's what he is, ice cream or cookies or whatever, but his nickname is Mint Chip, and we'll leave it at that. If I have sleep apnea, can I drive for you? Well, that's carrier specific. But if you're going to work for the big carriers, you know, Warner, Schneider, all of those carriers, they require you to take a sleep apnea test. Some of them require that. Some of them just say, okay, well, if the doctor says you have to take one, you have to take one. We don't really get involved in that in owner-operator recruiting. It's between you and your doctor, or in this case, chiropractor. Chiropractors know a lot about sleep apnea. So if you walk in there and they measure your neck and say you need to go have a sleep test, a sleep study test, then that's what you have to do. But no, you don't have to do that here. However, if between you and your medical physician, if you have sleep apnea, it's a good idea. In fact, we did a show here, on my trucking channel about sleep apnea and how I got a machine and where I got one. It was just like 6 months ago. So if that's of interest to you, I will put a link down below so that you can go and see it and see what I did. So thank you for your question, Mint Chip Cookie or Mint Chip Ice Cream. All right, our subject today, as I said, is about applications and what we as recruiters look for when you apply for a carrier. Here is the procedure. Usually drivers call in for some basic questions about our company or any trucking company. We then, or our marketing gets them to fill out an application. That's where everyone starts being an owner-operator, and that's with your application because that tells everything about you, right? It tells you what you're doing now, it tells you your history, it tells us as a recruiter. So when I'm actually looking at a live application, I'm not going to show it because of privacy, but we start with the guy's first job and we look for mainly how many jobs has he had in his trucking career. Or we go back a few years and look at those, the most recent ones anyway. This guy worked at Landstar from 2011 to 2020. Right away, that tells me he has some stability in his life, right? He knows what it's like to be at a carrier for a long period of time. So I put a green star there in my mind. This guy might be someone good. It's not always good to see someone's vast experience. Look at how many jobs I have had, because that means the guy, maybe he moves around too much and doesn't have any stability. He's wobbly. Many truck drivers are angry at the trucking lifestyle and trucking. They're angry at that and they take that out on their carrier rather than just deal with the anger of you being angry and bitter about trucking. It's the industry that keeps people moving from carrier to carrier to carrier. And I know I don't speak for you. I'd love to hear your comments below as to why you move around to so many carriers. But that's not necessarily a good thing. I look for stability. And I know my co-worker Emir does the same thing. We're looking for somebody who's stable. And the second job this guy had is an OTR job. So he was OTR with the first one, and then the second one he was. And here, this time he only stayed a year, but still a year in trucking is like an eternity. In my personal life, I tend to go with decades. Like, I'll go to a company and work there 10 years. If I like it, and I only do a job that I like, stay there 10 years and then move on and do another job 10 years, or a job or a business the next 10 years. So that's just a template that I use. I try to. But now this guy, he's had 2 jobs. And I look then at the reasons that he left. One, he left a better situation, he says. So he must not have been happy with Landstar, so he quit them for a better situation. And then his next job, before he came here, he's quitting that job because of a better situation. He's using generic. One thing that's good, he's not burning a bridge. And in my personal life, or if you know me as a friend, if someone asks me, I tell them never burn a bridge. And this guy, he's not saying, oh, they suck, I would never work for them. He's just saying he's moving on for a better situation. A better job, usually, sometimes it's more money, whatever the reason. So that's the first thing we as recruiters look at, is your job application. Like any company always looks at your application first. Question number 2, because we take your questions on this show, and you can send in your question to askatruckingrecruiter.com. That's me, I'm Indiana Jack, and I'll answer your questions. Circle Bomb writes, B-A-U-M, Circle Bomb writes, what is an IRP? If you're asking that, you're a new owner operator, and that's okay. We're here to answer everyone's question, even questions as elementary as what is an IRP. An IRP stands for International Registry Plan. I've used this example many times over the years. Remember when a moving truck would come to your house? I remember this as a kid, that's why I use this example. He would come to your house and the big tractor would pull up and he had 10 license plates all on the front of his truck, right? This plan, IRP plan, condenses all those license plates into one license plate, and it's an apportioned plate. And that is what an IRP is. And each state has an IRP plate. So the best way to find out if you're becoming a new owner-operator is Google your state name and then IRP plate, and up will pop the directions on how you get an IRP for your truck and your trucking business, which is mandatory. You have to have that. Unless you're using your carrier's plates, and that's a different, then you're under their IRP. So that's a different show. We've talked about that in the past. We'll cover it again. We will. Moving on to our show theme today, and that is, what do recruiters look for when looking at your application? The second thing we do after looking at your application, we call the driver and ask them for an interview. I usually send them a text and say, when is a good time for me to call you? And I'll call you and we'll do a live interview. And it's not like a 2-hour interview where you're interviewing for becoming a corporate vice president. It's a shorter interview where I get to know you and you get to know me. And we talk about the pertinent things on your application. So that is the second thing in the process of hiring someone, and that's the second thing that a recruiter does when recruiting you as an owner-operator. Don't forget, we have sponsors here, and let's support them if possible. Of course, you need a good way to get your loads, and the best way to get your loads is on DAT Solutions. Go there today with the link that I have below, and you'll save actually a whole month free if you tell them Indiana Jack sent you. You need a way to find good loads. Whether or not you use a carrier's dispatcher or agent, it still is a good idea to have DAT Solutions. Trucker's Edge is what I used for many years in my trucking business. Our second sponsor, Traveloko, home of 85%. That's right, you make 85% of the real Raycon, not a fake one, not a doctored up one, but the real one that is signed by the customer. And it's also where you get to pick your own load. That's what you get at Traveloko. And our third sponsor last week started with us. Thank you for the response, by the way. Company drivers go to Nugo Trucking. I'll put the link below and who you contact if you want to be someone that doesn't even want to have a trucking business. If you just want to be a company driver, they have Freightliner trucks for you. They have APUs and even a medical plan for you. But definitely a good place if you want to be a company driver. Let's all take a cup of coffee, a swig, because in my case, I can't talk so long without getting a flutter in my throat. Thank you for visiting our sponsors. I really appreciate that. After the application is the interview, and we already talked about that. The third thing we do, and that's actually the final thing we do until we start running your reports and everything. After that, then we run all the reports that we talked about of the documents that you have to have. We run your background, your DAC. We'll get into those individually in another show because it's too much to handle all at once, but we do run your background reports. And then basically those three things, if you got to the point with me as a recruiter where we're running your background, we're interested in you. We're hoping at that point the information that you put on your application matches the reports that I pull up on your background. So make sure those dates are correct. Make sure you didn't work for some place for 3 months and didn't put that on your application. That disqualifies you. You have to put even the nitty-gritty details like that. And that's not just us. That's like the government really wants us to do a thorough background check of truck drivers. So that's what we look at, the basic things. Question number 3, R. Denny asks, and I appreciate your questions at askatruckingrecruiter.com. Send them to me and I'll read them right here on the show. Do I need an IRP? Here we are talking about IRPs. That is a subject I talk about every day. It's probably the number one subject, but do I need an IRP and an IFTA sticker if I am Hotshot? I am not a recruiter for Hotshot. I am a recruiter for 18-wheelers, truck drivers, and I don't know a lot about that. But here's, if you're a Hotshot truck driver and you want to put information down below in comments so everyone can read it, it would be helpful to our listeners and our viewers. But in a basic nutshell, Hotshot trucks do not need IFTA and IRP Hotshot plates if they are under 26,000 pounds. So if you want to keep your rig under 26,000 pounds, man, you could buy a pickup truck tomorrow and roll. I don't know if you'll find a lot of loads because I don't know a lot about Hotshot. Anyone can get a pickup truck, so it's a much more competitive field since anyone can buy a pickup. So just keep that in mind. I'm not knocking Hotshot. I'm just telling you the information that our friend R. Denny asked if he needed an IRP. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. The show is growing. This is show number 4, as I said. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you interact. Even if you hate the show, I think they took the thumbs down or the negative. You can only give it a thumbs up. I'll have to look, but if you give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down, it doesn't matter. If you interact with us, it helps us in the Google, YouTube rating system. It helps us for you to comment and interact with us on the show. Thanks for watching today. I'm Indiana Jack. Appreciate your questions. Keep them coming in, and I will read them live right here on the show. And we will see you next week, Saturdays at noon Eastern Time.